All right, welcome back. Super excited to do this sort of commentary reaction video on one of my favorite top 10 cinematic scenes of all time. It is the Gold Watch monologue from Pulp Fiction. I was either a junior or a senior in high school when this movie came out, and it was just awesome. It totally like changed cinema forever. This is definitely one of my favorite scenes. This is also a time when Christopher Walken was just blowing up, having like sort of a renaissance in his career around the time of the cowbell scene from Saturday Night Live.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
So we're just gonna kind of go through it, get some reactions, and then also just kind of point out some things I think are interesting. Let's jump in.
Oh, that paddlefoot. He funny city dog. He think totem pole alive. He arctic tenderfoot. That totem pole been here forever.
Butch?
One more thing to put on the plan.
Opening is so good.
Butch, stop watching TV a second.
Call Spinner.
Yeah? I've got a special visitor.
Spinner! Spinner!
One thing that is like, we always got to give props to is like, I know like we see the actors and these famous actors and directors, but people who really deserve a lot of props too are like set design people. Just look at the beauty of this scene. It's like great. You got these sort of like classic 70s, 60s, 70s-ish decor, like the yellow. I can't really tell. Maybe it's like some of the wood paneling, that fake paneling stuff. This side, you got this little color contrast with and a little texture contrast with the bricks and the chimney. It's awesome. Even like subtle stuff like this is just totally brings us into that time period. Look at the carpet. This sort of circular carpet where the kid's sitting at, the TV, just sets it up so nicely. Just draws us in.
Now, do you remember when I told you your daddy died in a POW camp? Well.
Oh, this is so good. Like just, it's so funny just checking this out now. So one thing that is like really awesome is the blocking. And so blocking is kind of where everybody is in position to each other in the scene. And like, there's so much good stuff in this right now that like just sticks out. So notice like he's up here in sort of the little top level. He's about to come down the step. Just the symmetry of this. These lines are amazing. And if you look at the scene, this is all so intentional and planned out. I love like frames within frames. So being like this square here is like a frame and it's framing the background over here. You got shapes galore, and all this stuff is so intentional. Over here, you've got more of the rounded edges thing going on. Then you got like how they're framed within this sort of passage right here. So good. Subtle details of the green plant and just all this stuff just adds so much to it. The red over here. So good. It's close up of that classic rug.
This here is Captain Coons. He was in the POW camp with Daddy.
Here's something that's really cool I've never noticed before. And I'm like a big advocate of like wearing headphones for listening to music. A lot of times at night I end up using headphones just to watch TV, use my AirPods so I don't wake anybody else up in the house. But a subtle thing I've never noticed before, which is really awesome, is there's birds chirping in the background. And I never would have like heard that, the fine detail of that without the headphones on. And what's super cool about that is like that's super intentional and it adds so much to draw us in as the viewer. It's so good. And again, here's like that blocking thing. Like look at the distance, the symmetry of this is amazing. It's all these lines. It's great. You got lines going down this way, this way, this way. It's so good. Over here. All this stuff is just so intentional. It makes it so good.
Hello, little man. Boy, I sure heard a bunch about you. See, I was a good friend of your dad's. We were in that Hanoi pit of hell together over 5 years. Hopefully, you'll never have to experience this yourself, but when two men are in a situation like me and your dad were for as long as we were, you take on certain responsibilities.
So good. Like his his timing of like how he delivers lines is so awesome. And then I just noticed the subtle things. You catch this where he does like a little gulp. Because, you know, he's like really portraying like he hates to have this conversation with the kid. Really sells it. Let's watch it.
Dad were for as long as we were. You take on certain responsibilities of the other. If it had been me who'd not made it, Major Coolidge, you'd be talking right now to my son.
You see that pause, the dramatic pause, looks back at her. Stuff like that. I wonder how many times they like took how many takes they took of this scene. Was that like an improv Christopher Walken thing? Was that like a direction from Quentin? Also, when we talk about that framing thing, look at how he's set up right here, almost like perfectly centered right here. And it's sometimes I think he is. I mean, oh, it's so good. And these guiding lines here, all this stuff like enhances the scene so much and does so much for us visually that we don't even realize it's happening. Even this, look at this. Notice this, the lines. Notice all the lines and the depth in this. There's so much depth to this scene. Here he is, like pretty strong in the foreground. She's in the midground. And we got the background back here. This is so good.
Jim. The way it turned out, I'm talking to you.
His face is like, what the fuck?
Butch. I got something for you.
Takes his time. Ah.
This watch I got here was first purchased by your great-grandfather.
What's really great is like we started off, if we think about it, all the way back here, right? Here he is. And then we got all the way, now we're all the way up to this part. Sitting down. He's just getting closer and closer to us. We're blocking out homegirl back here. Out of the
this
shot.
watch I got here was first purchased by your great-grandfather during the First World War. It was bought in a little general store in Knoxville, Tennessee. Made by the first company to make wristwatches. Up till then, people just carried pocket watches. It was bought by private doughboy Ryan Coolidge on the day he set sail for Paris. This was your great-grandfather's war watch, and he wore it every day he was in that war. And he'd done his duty, went home to your great-grandmother, took the watch off, put in an old coffee can, and in that can it stayed. Till your granddad, Dane Coolidge, was called upon by his country to go overseas and fight the Germans once again. This time they called it World War II.
Oh, look at this. Now we're like getting super close up. I love this too, like the shallow depth of field, like how she's completely blurred out at this point in the game. And it's interesting to me that they still keep her, she's still in the scene, which is super cool too, because she could have walked away and been in the kitchen. But yeah, this close-up is so good. And then also like the seriousness of his tone while he's telling the story to the kid is great. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm just like totally drawn in.
Great-grandfather gave this watch to your granddad for good luck. Unfortunately, Dane's luck wasn't as good as his old man's. Dane was a Marine, and he was killed, along with all the other Marines at the Battle of Wake Island. Granddad was facing death.
Oof.
He knew it. None of those boys had any illusions about ever leaving that island alive, so 3 days before the Japanese took the island, your granddad asked a gunner on an Air Force transport named Wanaki.
It's so good too, because if you've seen this scene before, you know what's coming, right? We all know what's coming. But this is like one of those scenes I wish I could just watch this movie for the first time again. It's kind of like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Like, just to go back to that moment in time. Because he's such an intense actor. And like even the fact that he's like whispering this to the kid, you know, it just draws us in. And we just feel the intensity of it. And like this super, super close-up of his face right here in the frame. It's like, the intensity.
Man he never met before in his life. To deliver to his infant son, we'd never seen in the flesh, his gold watch. 3 days later, your granddad was dead, but Wanaki kept his word. After the war was over, he paid a visit to your grandmother, delivering to your infant father his dad's gold watch. This watch. This watch.
Oh God, the
Daddy's
timing
wrist.
is so good. Ah, the pause. Oh, it just nails it. And the cool thing too with the headphones is like I can hear the birds chirping. It's so cool. I've never noticed that before. Here we go. Let's just like take that all in.
Grandmother, delivering to your infant father his dad's gold watch. This watch. This watch. It's on your daddy's wrist.
Oh my God. And also, you know what's interesting too? Talking about the framing thing is frames within frames, right? Look at here's his head, here's his hand with the watch, and look who we have framed in between the two. Oh, it's so good. It's so well done.
This watch was on your daddy's wrist when he was shot down on Hanoi. He was captured, put in a Vietnamese prison camp. He knew that if the gooks ever saw the watch, it'd be confiscated, taken away. The way your dad looked at it, this watch.
And like now all of a sudden we went from this super, super tight shot, right? Just to feel that intensity. Now all of a sudden like something's happening, something's changing. And it's so fucking good.
This watch was your birthright. You'd be damned if any slope's gonna put the greasy yellow hands on his boy's birthright. So he hid it. In one place he knew he could hide something, his ass. 5 long years he wore this watch, up his ass. Then he died of dysentery. Give me the watch.
Died at this
I hid this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my
like
ass
some
2 years.
Oregon Trail shit.
Then, after 7 years, I was sent home to my family, and now, little man, I give the watch to you.
Oh, so good. Oh, then he wakes up. I love it. Like it's crazy to think how much effort probably went into the scene between like the set design. You know, I wonder how many. I just wish you could like talk to like Christopher Walken or like Quentin Tarantino or anybody on set for a scene like that to see like how many takes they did. But the mastery of this whole thing, like the editing, like just the pacing they create is so good. Like stuff like this full close-up shot to really nail that intensity of it. So all of a sudden, like when the intensity, we get this break all of a sudden, and it's like this big open scene. He's like framed right in the middle here, and then his whole thing changes, and it just I love it. What did you catch in this whole thing? Like that's just kind of stuff that kind of popped out to me that I think is really cool. What kind of things did you notice? Just drop a couple of comments. If there's something that you want to see like a reaction to or some commentary on one of your favorite scenes, favorite song, drop a comment for that. And if I go through and use it, we'll give you a little shout out and a little name drop up here on the screen. But that's all I got. Hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon.